In this video, I'm going to show you some tire plug options for tubeless tires made by Dynaplug. So let's do a little tire plug 101. You use a tire plug on tubeless tires if the sealant that you have in your tire does not seal up the hole. So sometimes, for whatever reason, even smaller holes, there are times that sealant doesn't work and the sealant leaks out without sealing the hole, and then you would put a tire plug. Now, traditionally, people have used bacon strips, and they're called bacon strips because they look like bacon strips. So what you would do with the bacon strip is you take one of these out, you use the little applicator here to push the bacon strip down inside the hole. When you pull the tool out, the bacon strip stays inside the hole and hopefully will seal it up. Now, bacon strips can be a little difficult to work with, so there are some other options. I've been using the Stan's Dart, and this has just a little cap, and then what you do is you would push this down inside the hole. When you pull it out, the little dart stays inside and seals up the hole. And this is actually designed to work with the sealant. Now I'm going to show you the Dynaplug ones. There are two different types of plugs that I'm going to show you that are really cool. Especially one of them has a really neat feature. But first of all, let me say one thing about what you should carry on your ride. So you definitely need to carry a pump. You need to carry an extra tube just in case you totally can't seal up the hole. Very rare. I haven't had to put a tube in a tire in forever. But one thing that I do recommend carrying is a bottle of sealant, because most tire plugs will need sealant to finally seal up the hole. Sometimes the plug will do it without sealant. So typically what happens is, you try to seal the hole and all your sealant comes out, and then you have a tire with a hole in it and you need to plug it, but you oftentimes need to use sealant. So what I do in that circumstance is I will plug the hole and then put sealant in the tire so that the sealant can come around the plug. And I also recommend carrying a valve core remover. Now you can get smaller ones. So what you do is you remove the valve core, squeeze the bottle of sealant through the valve stem, and then put your valve core back in with a tool, and then you've got sealant inside your tire. All right, now let's take a look at two different plugs, or plug kits I should say, made by Dynaplug. Now Dynaplug is known for making motorcycle and automotive tire plugs, but they've recently started making bicycle tire plugs. And again, they have some pretty cool features. The first one that I'll show you is called the Racer. This one comes with a little mount that you can put underneath your water bottle cage to have it really easy to access. And this one has two different size plugs. So the first one is your traditional, that's a little bit thinner, and that one is used for sealing smaller holes. And then on the other end, you've got what they call the mega plug, which is 3 times thicker than this one. Now the advantage of this one is it's really easy to access. Now I actually keep this in my tool bag because I'm not racing. I use this on my gravel bike. And so I keep this in my tool pouch behind the seat. But if you were racing and you wanted to keep this in the mount underneath your water bottle cage, you can access it really quickly. The other advantage to both of the ones that I'm going to show you by Dynaplug is it has a metal applicator and it's got a metal tip on the plug. So these are the plugs. This Racer kit comes with these extra plugs. And so you can see the black part is actually the plug that plugs up the hole of your tire. The metal tip is designed to push down inside the hole, and then when you pull it out, the plug will stay inside. I'll show you what the plug looks like coming out in the other one that I'm going to show you. But again, because sometimes it's hard to push a plug down inside a hole, because this is a metal shaft and a metal tip on the plug, you can typically, have enough force. The other kit that I'm going to show you, I think, is really neat. By the way, this one retails for about $48. So these are pretty expensive. This is a higher end plug. But, if you're at an event, you're racing, and, you've traveled a long way to get to your race, and you get a hole in your tire, and you need something really quickly to get you back on the trail, this can be a good option for you. This other kit comes with a few different things. It comes with a hose that I'll talk about here in a minute. It comes with a couple CO2s, and of course you can get more of those. And they're threaded CO2s, by the way. And then it comes with the applicator. Now, what this does is it allows you to air up your tire with the CO2 through the puncture. And so as you put this into the tire, into the hole, as you pull it out, the plug will stay inside and seal up the hole. And again, sometimes those plugs you have to kind of put them between your fingers to get them back in. I didn't have to do that with this one. But if you can see in the video, there are little holes on the shaft. So again, you put this down inside the hole, you back out the CO2 cartridge after you've turned it all the way down to bottom it out. And I do it slowly. It will get cold and you need to have something on your fingers. If you don't have gloves on, you've got to put something around both sets of fingers because it gets really cold. I found out this morning that even the applicator gets super cold. And so you back out the CO2, you air up your tire, and then when it's all aired up, you pull this out, the plug stays inside. So you literally could pull this out, air up your tire, and plug it in under a minute. Probably if you did it fast, you can do it in 30 seconds. Now, what is the hose for? So the hose is to allow you to use this as a traditional CO2 going through the valve stem. So what you would do in that case is you would unscrew this tip, and then instead you would screw on the hose. You got the hose on, and then this end would go onto your valve stem. All right, now I'm going to switch over to the video that I made this morning of actually using this because my son got a pinch flat, some kind of hole right at the end of one of our rides last week. And so I had to seal it up. And this is the video of this morning of me using this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert this into the hole of the tire. And there's a little tiny hole right there. I don't know if you can see that in the video. And there's one on both sides. And that's where the air is going to come out. So I've got to insert this all the way into the tire past those little holes. And typically with the CO2, you can thread them on and then it'll stop and then you back it out to release the air. Sometimes that doesn't always work. So I'm going to insert this into the tire first and then I'm going to thread it. Hopefully it'll stop. If not, then we'll just go ahead and fill up the tire. And then when I pull this out, the plug's going to stay inside the tire. All right, so there's my hole. Have to actually use a little spit to be able to show where the hole is because it is very small. All right, there it is right there. I'm going to go ahead and stick this through. Okay, it's in the tire. I'm going to thread the CO2 and I'm going to use something to hold the CO2 because this thing is going to get really cold. Okay, so this one did thread on all the way and now I can back it out and it'll fill the tire. I'm going to do it slowly. Ooh, that's getting cold. Even the adapter gets cold. All right, so I've got plenty of air in that tire, and I'm just going to pull the adapter out. Uh-oh! So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add some stands here, and hopefully the stands fluid is going to seal around that hole. But the plug did stay in, so this thing worked. The plug stayed in the tire, and I've got a lot of air in that tire. But yeah, like I said, the plug did stay in. This is a unique hole. This is a pinch flat, so it's not your typical little thorn puncture or something like that. So yeah, all right, let's add some stands and see if we can get that tire to seal with the stands fluid coming out around there. Now, before I let the air out of the tire, I do want to say that this tire is now holding. There's no air coming out. I've probably got about 20 PSI. The CO2 probably took it up to like 30, which is a little bit too much air. This is probably about 20 PSI, enough to keep riding, definitely enough to get you back home. But now, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to let out all my CO2 so that I can put some stands fluid inside the tire and then air it back up with a floor pump. And take out the valve core. There goes my CO2. And by the way, when you use a CO2, it's really just to get you back home because CO2 leaks out of a tire easier than just regular air. The molecules are smaller. I like unseating the bead of the tire from time to time because I like to check and see if there's any debris, any hardened stands fluid inside that I need to get out. But in this case, we're just going to do the quick way of using the injector. And then we'll air it back up, and hopefully the stands will seal around that plug that we put in. All right, let's put some air in it. See what happens. This tire I'm gonna run about 24 in the back. This is my son's bike. And actually, so far it's holding. I don't hear any air coming out. I wonder if it just took a minute for that plug to seal up. Yeah, I don't hear any air coming out. So the plug is actually holding now. So the last step is I'm just gonna trim off that plug. Nice. Oop, there comes some. Let's move the plug around a little bit. Get some stands around it. Totally sealed now. Very cool. All right, it worked. Sealed. Sweet. So after I got the tire to seal, we went for a ride and it held, did not lose any air at all. And that was this morning. As of tonight, the tire is still holding air just fine, has not lost any PSI in the tire. So it worked well. Like I said, there are times when you need the sealant to seal up the hole along with the plug, but it does work. So this kit is about, I think it's about $75. And so, you know, that's a little pricey, especially compared to like a Stan's Dart. But if you want to get back up and running really quickly, again, like I said before, if you race, you're in an event and you paid a lot of money, you've driven a long way, something that'll get you back up and running in under a minute is worth it. Of course, the other option is to use bacon strips or a Stan's Dart and just use a hand pump or a CO2 if you wanted to do that. And you could use, like I said, the hose as a traditional CO2 and get you up and running that way. But those are two really cool options from Dynaplug, the Racer and then the CO2 kit. Check it out. If you've used either of these, let me know in the comments below your experience. How has it worked for you? If you have any other questions or comments about these, drop those below as well. Thanks for watching.